So some of the surprises I had today, one actually came out of this last session, which was talking about business schools and whether business schools are walking the talk on sustainability. And there it was quite clear that there could be done much more. And also just in terms of transitioning the mindset, in terms of are you just complying with the rules as a business school, or are you actually out there showing as a thought leader what can be done all the way down in the operations of what you do as a business school. I thought that was an exciting discussion, an important discussion, and a surprising discussion, because of course as an external you would always think that business schools, and especially in Copenhagen, leading on sustainability, but that you would already have had these discussions many years ago. But I think it's just really important that they're here, and there were definitely issues to tackle. It has definitely been slow since we had the climate talks in Copenhagen many years ago. There, the momentum sort of went out of it, and everybody got frustrated that we couldn't agree globally on an agreement on climate change. But I think the last few years, we're just really seeing a momentum, both because of the younger generation, the millennials, really choosing their workplaces in terms of where can they get a sustainable brand to work for, but also in their shopping basket only putting in what is sustainable, but also just shifts in energy prices for renewables being so low now. So we're seeing that it's really starting to take off. I see a totally new role, because what we need now is systemic change. We live in a systemic risk landscape where your risk is my risk, we share risks. And a business school alone cannot fix the problem. Neither can a think tank or a civil society or business. We need new sort of solution alliances where civil society, business and politics and knowledge institutions join hands and actually create the change together. So it's much more complicated acting together than acting alone. But we all have our unique role, and it's necessary. I think there are quite many examples, but a lot of them are still not at the macro level. A lot of them are still business, civil society joining hands for business to walk the last mile of the market to create value for people at the bottom of the pyramid. There are quite many examples of Arla, for instance, and Danish Church Aid working together on sustainable production of high-energy biscuits, for instance, for children, so they have impact on malnourishment. So that's a concrete example, but it's still quite many examples, but they're still new. So in terms of saying what's best practice, it probably has to, the time will tell. Well, I think especially the SDGs, we will see them drive new alliances, which will in turn create new markets. And so the SDGs will now become translated from these great political ambitions into sort of concrete market structures. So we have now investors starting to ask the questions before they make an investment, which SDGs are you fulfilling? We're seeing governments making national action plans. We're seeing businesses taking their strategy, putting the sustainable development goals on top and seeing, can we do more? Are we doing the right thing? So we will see this, so SDG number 17 on partnerships, materialize much more in the coming years. And then we will actually see much more of this cross-silo collaboration. So I think definitely I'm optimistic because we have the Sustainable Development Goals and because we actually also will see some public investments and some private financing going into trying to make this happen. Yeah, I think we're also in a transition of being only thinking to, as we also heard in the conference today, maybe taking those thoughts and taking that body of knowledge out to have more of a catalytic impact. So using that knowledge to bring the right actors around the table, because that's maybe they don't have the necessary knowledge, but we have the knowledge to sort of put the pieces of the puzzle together. So that's what we're doing, taking more of, going from more being producing reports to acting on the knowledge that we have in terms of bringing the change makers together. And I think that's really important because everybody is bogged down in their daily operations. So just lifting and looking at what's going on around the corner, that maybe my next market is being unlocked by one of the SDGs. That's maybe not something you have the energy to do in your everyday work, but that's where we as a think tank that's already all the time mapping the opportunities related to the SDGs have to help with. What we are looking at now, since we're working with the UN Global Compact on mapping the opportunity landscape every year in relation to the SDGs, and there we are also working with Prime. And just concretely, we are having this opportunity lab in New York next week, and there are a number of students from Prime will be there, where we'll take the participants on a journey from 5 global risks to 15 new markets opportunities. So that will be an innovation process. And their students will be part of it, because from our previous work, when we do these innovation workshops, it's quite clear that youth bring something unique to the table, especially in terms of knowledge about how can we use technology to disrupt some of these social and environmental bads that we're stuck with. But we want to do more with youth and with Prime. Definitely, if we could work more with business schools in terms of the mindset from risk to opportunity. So have some tools in terms of what is opportunity leadership, how can you work with it, how can you look at a great risk and turn it into your opportunity for action in your, now when you're a student, but also when you become a leader. So that's what we want to do more of, but we're already doing it mostly with Prime. I think we heard the last question in this session was that we're really in the transformation. We're looking at a new paradigm. Right now it's still mainly a risk issue, but we see some tackling it also as an opportunity. And for that to be a true paradigm shift and not just be niche businesses, the smaller ones that never reach the scale, then we have to get businesses, schools involved, and we have to get youth involved, because that is the greatest opportunity to create a new world. In some areas, we could do much more. But I think especially in terms of sustainable cities and what's going on in Copenhagen, we're definitely a small lab for that. Also because, as we heard in the conference, we've had regulation being a driver of sustainable markets here. We've had some politicians that wanted to take those fights. And therefore, of course, we have some clusters of Danish industries that are very well positioned also to export sustainable solutions. So I think in that sense, but I think going forward, to keep that momentum, we need to do more. When we have change of generation in many of the bigger corporations with the global value change, then definitely we will see a positive change.